Yeah. Well, we could start out with that actually.
Really?
We
Okay.
we
Well, we
could.
can
Well,
go
hello,
to Paulie
folks.
Bill.
How are you? Greetings. Welcome to June 18th, 2021, folks. My name's André Chumley, and this is Confronting Creativity here on the Make Weird Music Networks. And tonight, I'm really excited to have a conversation with a musician that I've been listening to for over 30 years. I first heard him with Todd Rundgren, and then I was amazed to see him jump all around the musical map, whether with Beck or Norah Jones or Frank Black, and then he started putting out these great solo records and popping up, doing all these soundtracks. Uh, we could do a half hour just on the intro on this man, but we won't. We're gonna go right to Mr. Lyle Workman, guitarist, composer, and raconteur. How are you, man?
Pretty good. How are you, Andre?
I'm doing all
Uh-oh.
right.
Something's
I'm doing.
happening.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh. We have a visitor.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
what? We producer, can we get this? What, ladies and gentlemen, Walter White. Wow,
I am the danger.
this is incredible, folks. We did not we didn't expect that we'd have another celebrity from the worlds of music and film, but thank you. Hello, Walter White. Um, there's a rumor that you will be scoring the new reboot of Breaking Bad. Is there any truth to that, or did I just
Seriously?
make that
No,
up?
that's you.
I,
Yeah, that's not true.
I just
I
made that
wish I
up.
would love to. I love the guy they have because Dave Porter does a fantastic job.
Yeah,
Well,
I
we know
wish
it's over. We know that series ran its course.
it did. It did. Thankfully, some things do go on too much.
Yeah.
But well, no, I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. And how are you, man? Because I've been asking artists and creative people what this year is like, and with a lot of them, and I think this is part of my question. I think when I watch you from a distance, reading interviews through the years, you know how to work at home and how to work alone and how to have 72-hour days where you're. So tell us how this year has been for you and in your creative space, mentally and everything.
Not much has changed. A lot of the work I do is by myself in my studio, particularly for writing. The biggest difference was just not collecting with a group of people in the room.
Hmm.
And even on the TV shows I was working on, we would just do everything with Zoom. We would what they call
Oh,
spot the show,
interesting.
where we talk about all the music area.
Oh, sorry. So on speaking of Zoom, okay, so that
Yeah.
that makes sense. So
Yeah.
you're doing that anyway.
So we would just do it with Zoom. And nowadays that everybody has their own studio. So if I needed drums or anything else, people would just do it in their own studios, record drums and various instruments.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really slowed down that much. What did slow down was productions of shows. So things are picking up now. But the thing is that it coincided with the release of my record. Well, my record was released February this year,
Hmm.
so there was a lot of activity that then to just get promotion that kind of type of thing for the record going.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've had a pretty busy time. Not too much downtime.
That's great. That's as one would suspect, right? I mean, and that's been a beautiful thing the last 20 years. You read these articles on people doing soundtracks, especially, and the movie might be in New Zealand, and they're doing live links to LA and doing stuff. So that's great to
Yeah,
hear. Um, well, we're going to jump around a bit, but that's I'm glad that you mentioned it because one of the most you know incredible gifts of the past several months was that you did drop an album on us, Uncommon Measures, which not only just a wonderful listen and a really fun record to be checking out. I've had it in the car on rotation for a while. That's always a sign when it stays in the car. And
yeah.
but also I love, as we were saying before, that there's some great attention being paid to it, and that's very exciting for people who've been fans of yours for so long. Um, Tell us a little bit about the compositional technique, because I'm fascinated by that. And as you've said, you've kind of done this for a lot of your soundtrack work, where you just kind of just play, just let it go, and come up with the ideas, just very organically. Talk to me about that technique.
Yeah, well, actually, with the soundtrack work, there are many parameters that are laid out, and it could be as much as temporary music that's been placed that they like, whether it be my music or other music. And so there's following, you're following that, you're following the story, you're following characters, you're following the direction. Essentially, and everything else I do in music besides my own music has to do with set parameters that to some degree. And so what I like to do for my own music is just play my guitar or the keyboard and just let what happens. Now, for this record particularly, the only thing I knew in advance was that I wanted to have an orchestra. I wanted to work with my longtime orchestrator, John Ashton Thomas, and have a pretty sizable orchestra be a substantial part of the music. That's the only thing I had set. But stylistically, I didn't have any, it's going to be this kind of genre or this or that. I just let that unfold. And that was fun. It was great to do it that way, because I would often come to places that I didn't think I would arrive just through the process of just opening one door and seeing what's in there, musically. And that's how the whole record was recorded.
That's so awesome.
That's that concept. The concept of no concept.
Well, that's great. And it really does feel like it, because, what I also like about your records, your solo records, is, there's some really thorny stuff happening. There's some stuff that labels are annoying, of course, but there's some stuff that comes from jazz rock. There's some stuff that comes from art rock and progressive music. There's all this stuff, flamenco. There's jazz. There's all kinds of things. But what I like is it never feels like you're hitting us over the head with technique or something like that. It feels just natural, and that's good to get some insight, that you kind of let your natural, muse kind of happen. So that's cool to finally learn that. Of course, working in Abbey Road with that orchestra, wow. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, it was a dream come true. I've always wanted to go there and record, and I'd worked with orchestras before in Los Angeles and a few other ones in Europe remotely. But I wanted to work at Abbey Road, and my orchestrator, he lives in between Air Studio and Abbey Road, and he often rides his bike to work every day because he does films. He's done like over 90 films.
Sure.
And so there's the lore of the Beatles, of course. It's a great room. It sounds incredible, and orchestrator works there all the time. So he was involved in the music from the get-go, sending rough drafts and very basic sketches of the music. So he knew exactly what kind of players we needed, and he cherry picked the ones he thought would be the best group of people to play this music, and did not disappoint.
No, absolutely did not. And I've got a little clip here, which, by the way, folks, we just put Lyle's YouTube link into our chat, so follow up on that. This is Lyle's official YouTube, so a lot of great videos on there of him in the studio and over time. But let's look at a quick clip here. This is a bit of North Star. Just so cool, so cool. Um, Check that whole thing out sometime, folks. There's a full video of that tracking and some other cool
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, what's cool too is how laid back the everyone looks, because you think orchestras and usually people have suits on, and there's kind of a, so it's great, just seeing how chill it really is, especially in a place like Abbey Road. By the way, happy birthday, Paul McCartney today,
Yeah.
I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's bumping right up on 80, 79, I guess today.
Yeah.
But Sir Paul, but okay, so that was your first time then working in Abbey Road, right? It was having, obviously listened to those records for decades. What a lineup too on this album. I mean, an all-star band. I want to start with on drums, Vinny Colaiuta. I mean, talk to us a little bit about, because you've worked with so many great drummers. Talk to us a little bit about working with Vinny, which of course you have on a bunch of these tracks.
Well, he's just one of the best. He's an incredible drummer. Just what can I say that hasn't been said already? The thing that there's 5 different drummers, and I chose different drummers just for what I thought would be the best drummer for the track. Mm-hmm. And for example, this song North Star you just played part of. It's 9.5 minutes long, and it goes through all these changes and has a drum solo. And I just knew that he would just play the way he plays, and I wouldn't have to say anything. And not exactly what happened. I didn't have to say anything. I had charts, and he was reading the chart and just playing the way he plays, and that was it. You know what I mean? And the same thing applies to everybody else today. The other musicians, it's about perfect casting. It's the right people for the right part.
That's it.
And really, it's just any one drummer could have done the whole record. It's just different flavors. It really is just a different flavor of the best ice cream you've ever had, and just whatever you're in the mood for, what you think is going to be a little bit more of a better fit. Sure. So yeah, Vinny is great. Just a great hang, and a lot of fun, and yeah, it was great fun.
That's awesome. Fun comes through, and I'm glad you used the word fun, because, as I said before, listening to your records, you're and there's a handful of people I can say this about, but it's a small group. But you haven't forgotten fun, and that's what's really cool, man. One of the things we'll talk about a bit is the Todd tours you did, and if people go back and look at that Nearly Human live from Japan, you're just having fun. Yeah. You're having fun.
That was such a great time in my life. Just that band, that music, people. It was just great fun.
One can tell, but that sense of fun, I applaud you, sir, and please keep that. It's such an inspiration, because so many people just get so deadly serious about it and so heavy, and the fun thing, Vinny is another one of those who, like you see him on the heaviest gigs possible. Yeah. And he's smiling. He's up there with Herbie.
Oh yeah.
Or Jeff Beck, and you're just like, this dude is loving it, So thank you. Of course, you did that Sting album with Vinny too, 57th and 9th.
The tracks that I'm on were with Josh Fries.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I know you're both on there. Okay. Yeah. So some crisscross. So, yeah. Okay. But great album, and one that you played a great part in.
Yeah, we did I think there are 4 songs that we just all got together in Sting's villa in Tuscany.
Yeah.
And the material. So yeah, kind of all together, and it was just another pinch me moment. For sure.
It's fantastic to collaborate with that man, and that must have sucked too, being in Tuscany, and really was a bad time, right? Just all that Italian food and wine.
Those the 3 11-course meals is what that do you in.
It's so sorry, bro.
Every day was like a feast, like an incredible feast.
That's great. And well, I want to segue from there to like the Zappa thing. I've always wondered your thoughts on Zappa, because obviously you listen to all kinds of music. Zappa's got to be in there, but
Oh, yeah.
Vinny and then Bruce Fowler, who you worked with on this record, and I'm sure a bunch of
Yeah,
other
yeah,
records.
yeah. I
'Cause
should mention that Bruce also was my orchestrator for
yeah,
some tracks as well.
he's everywhere, and
Yeah.
and I'm sure you've crossed paths with some other Zappa people. Talk to us a little bit about where Zappa was for you growing up. Like
Oh,
what
just
did you?
high school, overnight sensation, one size fits all, Roxy and Elsewhere, live in New York.
Yeah,
Those those were the big records for me. Apostrophe.
yeah.
Yeah. They were great. I mean, it had everything. It had humor. It was funny. It had heavy duty musicianship and incredible compositions. And yeah, I just loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely an influence. His music has been an influence for sure. You can hear it.
that's awesome. Yeah, I guessed it, and of course, friendship with people like Keneally, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know you're
Mike's a friend. He's
very peripheral to the Zappa thing, so that's good
yeah,
to confirm that. And just the orchestral moves actually, and some of some of the soloing. So yeah, that's a no-brainer, but good to hear it definitively. Um, the okay, so some other people on the new record. Abe Laboriel Jr. Man, he's on one track, and talk to us a little about Abe, but also you just did some stuff with Abe and Tim Lefevre, who was on the record. So
yeah,
touch on both of those for me.
yeah. Well, yeah, Tim is an amazing bass player. He played with Rain Krantz and did the last dope David Bowie record, Black Star.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just met him through our mutual friend Scroat, doing one of these celebrating nights of a night of tribute to a particular artist. This one was for Peter Gabriel,
Mm-hmm.
and Tim was on the gig, and I just was floored by his playing. And since then, we've worked together quite a bit. I've had him over here, and just recently I had Tim and Abe, and this is the ongoing job I've had creating library music for Facebook.
Oh, yes.
That's been really fantastic. Just really fun making all kinds of different types of music. Yeah, so I get to put together my friends, and this was fantastic because again we were all together in the room here with no masks, and
Right.
great.
It,
It's been really a joy to
it,
get back to some sense of normal.
a rediscovery, right? I mean,
Yeah,
science
science.
doing its thing.
Yep.
And California, you all were really at the forefront of taking this seriously and getting it going. So I applaud. I applaud that. Yeah, folks, we put the Instagram link up, but here's Lyle's Instagram, which is a really cool and active place that you can find out what the man is doing. But this is just a day or two ago, right?
Yeah, a couple days ago.
A couple
Yep.
days ago.
Yeah.
And I love when there's weird connections to things. Of course, Abe Laboriel Jr. is the longtime drummer of the Birthday Boy, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
So,
And we toured together with Sting. We did a summer tour together.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Mhm.
And he was playing with Sting.
Yeah.
He was in the band. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Did not know that. What a monster! And that's a guy
Right.
I'd love to get on the show because he's someone that is just a lot of people know about him. He's a legend, of course, but a lot of people don't. And he just does it all, man. Jazz, funk, rock, metal. I first saw him. He did a Steve Vai tour in 1993. 1993. Did you know that?
I don't think I knew that actually.
Yeah. There's videos, and he's out there killing it, doing all
Oh yeah.
the
Incredible.
old Vi stuff. So, okay, so Abe, and again, this is a little taster here, folks, of Lyle's Instagram. So go check this out.
My Hall of Shame.
The Hall of Shame. Hall of Shame. A lot of fun stuff. He gets into what's happening with his pedal board, and different orchestral moments, and funny stuff like that. Rage Against the Machine. So yeah, please go check this out. And what's really cool about the time we live in is artists just have this direct connection now, and I just love that when it's somebody who really has a lot to offer to us and is willing to share some of what's happening. Here's obviously, and this takes me to another great drummer on the record, Matt Chamberlain. Is this from the
Yeah.
sessions? Is this from
This
from
was
the record?
this is some more Facebook stuff. This is for the last
Okay.
tracks I wrote. I wrote and I had Tim and Matt Chamberlain, and this was yeah, this was just
Just
in the studio. Took a little shot there.
just a couple months ago.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's right. Fairly recently.
that is great. So Matt, talk to us a little bit about Matt and how you connected with him, because just another great drummer.
Again, it's just that other flavor of the best ice cream or any food you would want to use as an analogy.
Right.
It's just a real inventive. Uh, he gets it's just his pocket, his feel, his sounds. He gets it's just a very beautiful sound that he gets out of the drums, and he's just a very creative guy. He's got lots of weird electronic stuff and weird, bizarre percussion, and yeah, he's an artist. He's an
Yeah.
artist with the drums.
That, that's
Uh,
a that's a that's a great yeah, that's a great way to put it. A painter, kind of a yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Um, and right, because he's worked also with Fiona Apple, and then there's the John Bryan connection, and you guys work together. So it's
Yeah.
I love the family tree, because some people, yeah, there's a couple lines on it. I've always been fascinated through the years. You pop up on so many different things. As I said, I'm going to jump around a little bit. With that in mind, let's jump to one of my favorite things that you did was the Frank Black stuff. And a lot of people, I meet people still that either don't realize you did that or they haven't checked it out. 3 or 4 albums with Frank, including one of my favorite ones, the eponymous one, the one you guys did like live to 2-track,
Right.
live in the
Yeah.
studio.
Uh-huh.
Holy shit! So talk to me a little bit about working with Frank, because it's been many years, and that idea of just recording live without a net, which you've done with other artists. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did 2 records that way. Uh, I was just a big fan, a fan of the Pixies, and a fan of his first solo record, Frank Black, self-titled. And I ended up through a friend meeting him in the Bay Area, and we just ended up playing with him, and it was about almost 5 years of recording and touring, and it was just a blast. I love his music. I love the way he writes. I love his lyrics. There's sophistication, but it's not coming from. It's not a scholastic kind of approach. It's just he just hears things as an interesting filter in the way that he puts music together, and I really love it. And it was a great. He let me, as they say, go off. I had a lot of freedom to
Yeah.
do my thing within the context of his music, and I think that's why I was there for as long as I was, because I had all this freedom, and I really loved his music and him as a human being, and it was just a lot of fun, and really proud of those records. Teenager of the Year, I think, is probably my favorite of the ones we did.
So good.
But all of them are really fantastic, and again, super proud.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, and I really urge people, if they don't know a lot of Lyle's music, check out his solo records, of course, and all the soundtracks, but take some trips into some of these.
Whole nother world you wouldn't think it's the same guy, essentially.
Thank you.
Like, that's not the same guy that does Christmas records with Michael Bublé, and I'm playing with Frank Black, and people are moshing and stage diving, and
Yeah.
my first gig with them was here at in Los Angeles, and people were all moshing and jumping on the stage, and it kind of scared me, because I hadn't been a part of that energy before, and
Yeah.
it freaked me out. But then I just saw it was all good fun, and no one seemed to get hurt.
That's great.
I know.
No, well said, and that's as Napoleon Murphy Brock says, you took the mouth right out of my words. That's isn't that great? But no, I couldn't have put it better. But that's exactly a handful of times, I've we're listening to something and I'll point that out. And people go, wait a minute, that's the guy. Because yeah, you're right. It's completely a different side of you. It's a raw, punky, dirty kind of a thing happening. And then there's these beautiful, dynamic moments, which I also love about Frank Black. I consider him genius and one of the more unsung people in this last 25 years. Oh, geez, I'm getting older than that. It's over 30 years. But
Bye.
I was comparing him to the Velvet Underground to someone earlier, saying that,
Yeah.
just like the Velvet Underground, Pixies and Frank influenced scores of bands who became
Right.
more famous. But if
Yeah.
you really go back, something about that songwriting, I mean,
Oh yeah.
so
Again, he just has this. He just has a certain. He's just an artist. That's been really satisfying in my career, that I've had the opportunities to work with people that are true artists, and that they have a very unique way of presenting, not only presenting but writing, producing their music.
yeah.
Beck is another one. It's a world, it's a universe working with him. And the same thing with the universe of Todd, the universe of Sting, the universe of Beck. It's been great getting inside their music, because you learn a lot from playing someone else's music, and seeing how the music was put together and what makes it tick. It's very informative. And it all
That's
kind of goes in the grab bag, it all goes and gets filtered in, and it all
that
comes out from time to time, and fits its spurts. Fits and
infor-
starts.
informative is a great that's a great not catchphrase, but a great tag for that, because right, you've obviously picked up and pulled and learned from all these different artists. I've got a couple people saying hi here in YouTube, so I always got to make sure I do not leave them hanging. How are you, folks? Thanks for being here tonight, or this afternoon, or sometimes it's midnight because it's people in Europe. But thanks so much. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Spike Spikerson's here. Um, Mark says he loves that album, the new one, Uncommon Measures, and he loves watching the footage. Is that the one you're talking about, Mark? Well, either way, he loves the album. And he also
Mark?
loves your album that included Mike K. Yes. Here's a question. Hello, Nick. How are you, buddy? Nick says, what's up, Dre? Hey, Lyle, fellow San Jose musician here. And he says, Uncommon Measures really is an incredible piece of work. How long did that album take from composition to release? What was your complete time there?
Well, yeah. Thanks, first of all. Thank you for that. I say I whittled away at it over about 4 years.
Mm.
Uh, it wouldn't have taken 4 years, but I have basically a day job, which is writing music for TV and film. So I would work at it when I didn't have other, paid work, and so I would do a little bit at a time, and then also I'm working with an orchestrator who's also very in demand and very busy. So it just took time because of that. It'd be really hard to estimate how much it would have how long it would have taken if I hadn't had those, those interruptions, so to speak. But yeah, so that's how long it took, and for that reason.
Okay. That's great.
I can
So
tell you that the orchestra took 9.5 hours to get all that done, which is
are you serious?
really speedy for what they did.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Now, we've all seen the video where Paul McCartney's doing a gig or something it's like a fan thing at Abbey Road, and he goes over and plays the actual mellotron. And I
Yeah.
know Fernando Perdomo is he a friend of yours? Do you
Oh
know
yeah,
Fernando?
sure.
Yeah,
It sure
makes
is.
sense. And I know he did a record there where he played one of the pianos that the Beatles used. Did you get to do that? Did you get to lurk around?
Yeah, we were in Studio One, which is the big room. Most of the Beatles stuff was done in Studio Two, but yeah, it was open. There was nobody there, so they took me through, and I got to plink on a couple pianos, and I was also visited by my friend Dave Gregory from was in the band
XTC.
XTC.
Sure.
So he came out. It was just really special, man. It was an incredible experience. But yeah, just being in that room and those walking up the stairs in the Beatles room. Oh, it's just incredible knowing that that's where the lads.
That's where it was.
Many steps up and down those stairs.
That's pretty amazing, man. Yeah, just to play the piano and kind of know, yeah, okay, that's that's the piano on countless songs.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so there you go, Nick. And by the way, I didn't know Nick's a friend of mine. I didn't know he would be watching today. Thanks for being here, Nick. And I'll a little plug to Lyle. Nick is also from San Jose and is a wonderful arranger and orchestrator and musician.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's fun. I can't believe this coincidence because I just jokingly brought up Napoleon Murphy Brock, who's a dear friend, and I play with him a lot.
He's from San Jose now.
Napoleon?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Get out of here.
He's from Oakland actually.
Okay. Yeah.
He's lived in San Jose for decades. In
I
fact,
didn't know that.
yeah. In fact, on the Zappa, Roxy, and Elsewhere album, when they're kidding around and they're gonna smoke a joint from Carl Zappa's sock, like that far back, Napoleon says something like, "Where you been living?" Someone says, "Where you been living, Reseda?" And he says, "No, man, San Jose." So that was.
Oh,
So
I never heard that.
he's always in San Jose. But Nick has a Zappa tribute band, really
Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
Yeah, and they're gonna do a gig with Napoleon in the fall.
Oh, that's
So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Have him be in me so I can see what he's up to.
I will. We'll put you in touch there. Yeah. So
Are people on live right now? Are they? I mean, are they able to communicate to you in real time?
Yeah, I'm looking at a screen with the YouTube Live. I'm in the studio. I can go back and forth, and I see you and me and the back door stuff. Here it is. Let's give people a little.
Oh, I see. Okay, so
glimpse.
it's like the chat thing. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I can also look at stats and kind of if the stream is okay and blah blah blah.
Right.
So, and then this stays up here forever. As I say, if this video will be up until the aliens come or until there's an EMP, electromagnetic pulse.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, people can see it anytime. Let's see. Okay. Yes, we are going to talk about Todd in a minute. Paul, thanks for saying that. Hi, Derek. Hi, Cloudy Jack. Cloudy Jack says this album, Uncommon Measures, has his vote. His don't know if it's his or hers, has their vote for album of the year. That's awesome.
That's great.
Another question there. Did you have parts written for the non-orchestral musicians? Did they have notation parts, or was it just the orchestral parts that were written?
Chord charts and any melodies that were the vibe. The mallets player had Wade Colbreth is a great mallet player here in Los Angeles. He does tons of movies too, and he's an incredible player. So yeah, all the lines and things like that, that's all written out. Melodies, but nothing written for drums other than the chord charts. So that would just be essentially slashes, chord slashes, and meters.
Okay.
Yeah, but every single note for the orchestra was written.
Okay. Another wonderful player who I just saw another video of you doing stuff with. Correct me if I say his name wrong. Greg Lees.
Greg Lees, yeah. Oh
Greg
my
Lees,
God,
pedal steel, amazing. I first encountered him with Bill Frisell, and then he showed up. Tell us a little bit about your friendship and your working with.
Well, yeah,
with
Greg is just he's just an incredible lap steel player, pedal steel player, guitar player. He's played with everyone, with Clapton and Bill Frisell and Jackson Browne. He's playing with them most currently now, but it's just everything he plays is just beautiful. You know what I mean? It's when you get people like that, you give them the chord chart or whatever it is, and they just, if you know them, if you know they're playing, if you're really well versed in what they do, you just let them play. And that's why everyone has a good time, because they just come to play and do what they do. And there's I don't give a lot of notes, really, a lot of feedback, um, because of that, for that reason.
Yeah. No, that's so beautifully put. It's simpler than people think. Just step out of the way. you
Yeah,
know.
that's the thing about, once you reach a certain level, then you just, just play, just do your thing.
Yeah. No, Zen. Zen is a word that keeps coming up um, when I check your vibe out over the years and lessons and things like that. It's funny. I just watched a video last night with a gentleman I'm sure you know, Thomas Nordegg. The, do you know
Oh,
Thomas?
is he a guitar player?
He's a guitar player, but he's Steve Vai's tech, Lindsey Buckingham, uh, John Petrucci, just kind of
Oh,
Zappa. He was Zappa's tech for many, many years.
wow.
But well, you should meet him. He's an amazing guy, and he's
Yeah.
tech for everyone. But what's cool is he's got that vibe. Like they ask him questions, and he's like, he's Austrian, and sorry for the bad accent. They'll say, "Well, how do you do this?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah. Well, I just take an old battery and I put some tape and I stick it under the bridge, and then I change the strings." And people are looking for these very complex things sometimes, and sometimes it's just, "Hey, man, chill, let it happen, get
Yeah.
out of the way." And he's like that in general about his teching. It's very brilliant and inventive by just chilling out and so
Well,
so
the other thing about it is that you get the best from musicians when they do what they do. When you start to overproduce a musician, that's the thing, is I've been on the other side. I've been on the side where I'm a sideman many times, and or doing records, working with producers, and the best producers just let you do what you do. They hire you for a reason, because that you play the way that, again, perfect casting. And those are all the most fun sessions, when you just come to play, and you play, and it's music. That's what it is.
that's
Key
it,
is
man.
getting the right people, though. That's the
Yes.
key.
No,
Then they
absolutely.
just do what they do, and you don't have to say anything, or very little.
That's let's just get out of the way. Um, um, got a couple questions here. And I'm going to come right back to these and a couple hellos. Yeah, bourgeois tag. We're going to come to them. We have a special guest saying hello. Michael Shrieve is here. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Oh, Michael Shrieve, what a treat!
What a
What a
treat.
treat,
How
Michael.
are you?
Yeah, we lived in the same area for a spell, uh, and yeah, and I actually met him through. I think I met him through my wife. She'd worked on did some art direction for, I think, one of his records, or a couple of his records. Michael will probably have a better. I'm I'm spacing on what exactly it was, but
Sure.
yeah, what can we say about Michael Shrieve, man? A legend and an amazing musician, and just a great person. And his podcast is fantastic. If it's Stick People, or can you
Uh,
maybe,
right, with all the drummers. I know.
all the drummers? Yeah, with all these great drummers, and
Dude,
I'm a big fan of drummers.
I know.
A
I
lot of
mean,
my
this is
best friends are drummers. I'll geek out on drum videos way more than guitar videos.
this is true, and
I just love rhythm. I started playing. I played drums before I played guitar,
you
uh,
know,
and so I play a little bit, but you know I don't I don't need to play on my stuff when I've got these guys. But yeah, Michael is just it's the legend.
he, it's enriched my life to be able to meet that man and become friends. Had him on the show a few months ago, and we're gonna have him back because I know he's
Oh,
got some.
I gotta watch that one then.
Yeah, that was a fun one. We have it was him and Paul Wertico actually.
Oh wow,
Yeah, together, old friends, and we were talking. So
amazing.
we're gonna have Michael on though in a couple of months because I know he's got a real special book project that he's working on
Oh,
and a
very
couple
cool.
other things. So we're gonna bring him back. But as I said before, one of the themes is the family tree that we can do with you, man. And just even right
Wow.
there, just randomly, I can come up with this shit because you have Michael who played with Neil Schon, who played in the Journey, where Prairie Prince was, and that brings us to one of my next areas.
Yeah, and I
It's all
also,
connected. Yeah.
I know Randy
Bass
Jackson
player.
from a
Yeah.
long time ago, and we even put like a little pop band together with his then wife, and we
Oh,
played together a little bit. And yeah, so I've known Randy for a while, and yeah, that's just it'd be amazing if someone actually did that. It would be I mean, it would just look crazy,
it would look
all the
crazy.
connections,
It
but
would
it'd
look
be
crazy.
interesting.
Well, maybe I'll start doing that. If someone
I
wants
did a
to
little
help
thing with
me.
Jonathan Cain too for a little bit.
Wow.
Played with
See,
him for a little bit. Yeah,
we,
uh,
we
another
good.
amazing musician. It's a great songwriter and fantastic human being.
Absolutely. And then Prairie
Very,
so
yeah.
so let's focus on that for a second because I can't not make sure people know about those records you did with Todd. Nearly
Yes.
Human and Second Wind,
Mm.
just still near the top of the pile of an incredible pile of albums from the man.
Yeah,
And he just, you and I were talking a few months ago because he just did most of that record on stage as part of this
that's
premium
right.
thing. That's
That's
how
right.
special. Yeah, it's how special that record is. So, give us some memories then of both of those, of Nearly Human, and then doing the Second Wind thing in front of an audience. What a unique idea. Um, a few people have done it, like Joe Jackson, but that was very special. Tell us a little bit about that period.
Well, we were coming off a record that Todd Rundgren had produced, and we he had asked our band essentially to be his band in the studio for the making of what would be Nearly Human.
Hmm.
Us with other people, it was big people now, a lot of people involved, and so this was everything recorded live with no overdubs in the studio. So there were two or three keyboard players, five or six background singers, one or two guitar players, bass drums, some and horns, different people all recording together. And it was just a complete. I remember my girlfriend at the time lived in Sausalito, the same city that Todd was living in, and we were talking about the record. Todd was telling me about the record, and he said that he had a cassette tape of some of the songs we were going to record, and if I wanted to come by and check it out, he would play it for me. So I went to his house, and he played me a couple of songs. I think one was called Parallel Lines, and then another incredible song. I think it was called maybe it was The Waiting Game. One of another
Hmm.
song from.
It's on the
And I
record
was
with that.
sitting there listening to this music, and I was going, "Do not cry and do not," because the music was just it was so good,
Right.
and to realize that I was going to be a part of that, I
Wow.
was overcome with emotion, and I was just, oh man, and it just is still one of the pinch me moments of my whole life
Sure.
working with Todd, particularly on those two records. So that was the first record, and the second record was done also live, but in front of an audience. So we recreated a recording studio on stage at the
Right.
Palace of Fine Arts, and people were allowed to go and witness the making of a record, but they were told, Todd said, "Be quiet. I'll give you a signal when you could applause or make a noise, but this is not a show. It's a recording session. You're witnessing a recording session." So we were all the musicians on stage had we were all sitting down. We had gobos and things like that, and we had a little thing to write notes so we can declarations of mistakes for a particular take. Oh, I made a mistake here, or this was a great take for me. And so all these notes, Todd was able to compile the notes, because we would do a song maybe 5 or 6 times,
Right.
because he wanted to get the best version of it because he didn't want to do any editing, or I guess he wanted to have full takes. Uh, but another amazing experience.
No, that really. I love that, folks. If you go on YouTube, actually, once again, the wonders of YouTube, these things are out there. There's a short little, I guess you could call it a documentary of that record, and
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just
right.
give people a little taste of that.
I guess the concept of the production is what you see.
Roger
You know, it's
Powell.
everything being done at once.
It's like having sex in front of a whole bunch of people, you know?
Yeah.
You got to perform, and you got to get it up, and you got to do it right.
There's what the stage looked like, folks. All the gobos.
In case you're wondering what we're doing up here, everyone has a report card to fill out
Oh.
after each song.
There we go.
Let me
Yeah, it was
give you
really
an
something
indication
else.
where-
All
Of all the wonderful parts they have.
as Lyle said, you know,
One thing that I
little-
find to be the most
a little
different for me
report
is that
card
there's no way to
you
do
could
like a
actually
roll.
Yeah,
stage.
and then
you can't
they
say,
just go
okay, we goofed
back.
up to this point. Okay,
Oops,
let's
sorry.
just like
I'm sorry. Say again.
They were just Max Haskett was a trumpet player, and Vince Welnick, keyboard player, and sadly both of them are not with us anymore.
That's right. And
But yeah,
yeah, and
great musicians.
Vince, yet another connection to the tubes for
Right.
you.
And also,
Let's-
I'm a
All
huge,
the wonderful
I
parts
was
they have.
As Lyle said, oops.
a great
It's my
fan of
voice.
the
Go ahead.
Tubes. I love the Tubes. I love the Tubes so much.
Oh, absolutely. Now, before we go, I want to go back to Uncommon Measures and get some thoughts on a couple tracks specifically. But before we do, again, in this crazy bunch of connections, the when I first met you I was working for Celebrating David Bowie, which I still do, which is
right.
this kind of movable feast of Bowie alumni and just non-Bowie alumni, all stars, all kinds of people. And you have played with the group a number of times. And I remember one time you came there, you came to sit in. Michael Urbano was there from Todd and Bourgeois Tag, and also Todd was there. And so that was the first time you were around those guys in like 25 or 30 years, right?
Yeah, well, I'd seen Todd a few times in the interim, going to see him play, and we
Right.
visited him in Hawaii
Okay.
a couple of years back.
Yeah. I should say first time performing on stage.
Oh yeah, first time, yeah,
Yeah.
playing together. Yeah,
Wow. That's
Definitely.
I think there's some footage of that somewhere, folks. We should, because that was
Oh,
just
really?
so cool.
There is. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, there was, and so Lyle
Not
was there,
sure.
and now weren't you there when Fee Waybill jumped up also, or were you there that
Yes.
night? Yeah,
That was that same night. That's
so
right.
I
Yeah.
tell you, that's so cool. Jumping back to, again, Uncommon Measures. That's one of the things that I want to make sure people go and check it out. Go and buy it. Here's an independent artist. Here's a man who is sitting in his workplace, in his studio, and this is his job. And as he just said, about 4 years of
I
work.
gotta eat, people.
He's got to eat. But you can
As
go
if I'm
directly.
going to make a living making instrumental music.
I know.
Luckily, I have a day job, but still,
That was a little
I don't want to
crazy.
dissuade people from buying it because I have a job.
Right. No, that was a crazy choice, my friend. But I put the link of the Blue Canoe Records on in the chat there, folks. So click over there, and that's a really good link because that one tells you all about the record. There's some good bio stuff, and there's about 6 or 8 videos, really wonderful little clips of Lyle and people in the studio working on it in Abbey Road. It's just a really good site where it's all in one spot and where you can purchase it. There's links there to go buy it on Apple Music or iTunes or
That's
Amazon.
all there. BlueCanoeRecords.com.
BlueCanoeRecords.com. Thank you. And you can also get the vinyl. I know there's some vinyl freaks on here right now, and
It's available in our CDs, digital and in vinyl.
they thought of everything, folks. So no excuses. On that note, I wanted to ask you about so many favorite tracks in here, but one of my favorites, and I'll play a little bit of this. Let's see. Yes, people can hear this. This is the one called Arc of Life. I thought this was really cool. Let's hear a little bit. little bit of arc of life there, folks. And there's some real bombastic, ripping stuff on this album. We'll hear a clip or two, but that tune, every time it comes, the CD rolls around in my car, and it's funny because you get this effect when you do that in the car. You kind of forget where the album starts or ends. Because
that's the first song I wrote too, by the way.
Oh, see, that's interesting because it jumps out, and what I love, it's just this beautiful waltz with kind of an Americana thing, and there's some nice melodies. Wow, so first one you wrote, okay. So
yeah, that's the longest track on the record too. I think it's 10 and a half minutes long.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense. So in a way, it's kind of a centerpiece then of the energy. Would you say?
It's just the first track I wrote. Yeah. But the thing that was interesting for that particular song is, for the most part, I would start the orchestration. I would start the arranging. I would originate the arranging. Originate it, and with samples of orchestral instruments, strings, brass, and woodwinds, would do basic mock-ups of it, and then I would send it to John, my orchestrator, and then he would kind of extract it and add and embellish, get it ready for the players. But on that particular track, I wanted to give him full reign to do that himself, so I didn't do any mock-up. But I did have a lot of ideas for harmony, for counterpoint, that was intended for orchestra. So, but instead of doing it on using computer samples of orchestral instruments, I did it with guitar. So there's something like 25 tracks of guitar parts playing various cello lines, viola, violin, brass. But I didn't tell John what was supposed to be what. I just put the harmony down so that he would interpret it in the way that he wanted to do it, and to his ear. And that's the only one that's like that. The rest of them, I started with. I would start with the arranging.
Okay.
Except for the last track. And the last track is called "Our Friendship," and it was written by John.
Okay.
So that's his complete his baby in terms of the composing and the arrangement and the orchestration.
Right. No, that's some wonderful insight into that track. The other thing about that track is there's just a little crossover feel-wise with another record that's one of those one of the fun family tree things that we could do with Lyle Workman. You did a record that featured Michael Brecker, Stanley Clarke, Pat Metheny, Herbie Hancock. Of course, pretty much his final record. I think there was one other one.
Record.
Yeah. Tony Williams, the Wilderness record, where you got to do, on Machu Picchu, the track.
Yeah.
But wow, that is, and that takes the family tree into insanity, because then you're talking.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about being able to work, as you said, you're a drummer, fanatic. Tell us what it was like meeting and working with the great Tony Williams.
Oh, it was incredible. He was looking to put a band together it was essentially a kind of a rock record, but a little bit like the Believe It record, but a little bit more rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for a guitar player, and I was recommended, and I was living in my duplex in San Rafael, and Tony Williams calls me. And it was, "Hey, Lyle, this is Tony Williams." Like, yeah.
right.
Come on, Bill. No, man, this is Tony Williams. I was like, oh, okay. What do you want? But he was great, and he lived in Pacifica, and I would bring my guitar and a little, I think it was a Rockman or something at the time, and plug into a system he had there, and just write music together. Now, none of that. Well, actually, there was some things I helped him with that ended up on Wilderness. But most of the stuff that we did was going to be for a record that we didn't end up doing because, he passed away, unfortunately, right after. And in the interim, he says, "I'm going to do this other record with with the Cats, with Michael Brecker and Pat Metheny and Stanley Clark and Herbie Hancock, and he asked me to participate in it, and I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I really felt like a fish out of water. So they recorded it here in LA, and I came down, and we just did one of my tunes, but I got to hang out for a lot of the sessions and just be a fly on the wall and listen to those guys talk about music and ask questions. I asked Michael Brecker about Frank Zappa, and I don't know if I should say this, but I think maybe it's safe to say it at this point. I asked him about what was I playing with Zappa, and he kind of made a face. He went, "I don't know, man. That music just doesn't swing."
No, that's okay to say.
Which I thought was really funny because it's really not coming from jazz. Frank Zappa's music does not come from jazz. It comes from Frank Zappa.
That's it. Obviously, yes, an ingredient, and as he famously said, jazz is not dead. It just smells funny. So
yeah, exactly. But this, his takeaways that it didn't swing was I just thought that was kind of hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah, and he never soloed over changes. It's funny though. There's a track, "Blessed Relief." You know that track?
No.
It's from I guess Waka Jawaka or something, which not only swings but Frank solos over changes. So it's a very
because he would use one chord or two chords.
Exactly.
Black Napkins or something like that.
Exactly. So you have that tune always sticks out, and another one called "Alien Orifice" where he actually plays over a couple chords.
Yeah.
So well that's wow. Thank you for that story. That is great. And folks that are here, I got a couple questions I want to get to. But folks,
I just want to say that
please.
I'm conscious of all the people that want to ask me questions, so I don't want to leave them hanging too much if they have something they want to.
Absolutely. We have a couple
their complaints or questions.
And people that know my show and know my style know that this man has done a ton of interviews where all they do is ask him about Beck and Sting and wonderful records. I mean, those are incredible records, but he talks about that quite a bit in other places. We could touch a little bit on that, but today we're just talking about his new record and some of his thoughts of where we are in June 18th.
Well, what did those other artists think of my record? See, we can still
what did those artists? That would be good.
Yeah, so we can still tie the questions from about the other artists.
I like it. I like it. Oh, well, let's go to some folks in the audience and say real quick here. Two people saying, "I'm buying this record now." Wow, that's really cool.
Thank you.
Bob Sacco says, "Hey, Lyle."
Hey, Bob.
Old
friend from Sacramento.
That's awesome. Sacco from Sacro. Are you kidding me? Is that's too easy?
Yeah.
Bob Sacco from Sacro. That's awesome. So, Bob, how are you, Bob? Bob says, "Hey, Lyle, I spoke to Kurt Rosenwinkel recently. He said thanks for those samples you helped him with years ago." How about that? So that's awesome.
I helped him. The samples I helped Kurt Rosenwinkel.
That's what he says. Yeah. So you can't remember that.
Well, that's cool.
This man does so much that I'm sure what happened last week. Is
a huge fan of Kurt Rosenwinkel. Oh my gosh.
Oh, so good, so good.
If I hasn't heard it play, I should check it out.
Derek says, "Absolutely love this. That's beautiful. Buying it next Friday. My kind of music." Awesome. Tell some friends about it. Cloudy Jack says, "Kyle, are the studio videos of Uncommon Measures that are on YouTube, are those the actual guitar takes that are on the record, or did you go back and film yourself playing along?" Good question.
On the videos? No, I didn't film myself while I was recording the original parts. So no, I had to relearn what I played for the video, because what happened was the video, all the videos I did I have 3 full-length videos for the record.
Mm-hmm.
It was all after the fact, because a friend of mine who has been making his own videos of his own group with GoPro cameras and green screens. He's a guy I've known for a long, long time, and he offered to fly to Abbey Road to record the orchestra, and he brought 6 GoPro cameras and set them all up and recorded basically 9.5 hours, the whole day. Wow. So we had all this great footage, and when we got back, he sent me the footage, and I learned this program called DaVinci Resolve, and I started editing the orchestra for these songs, and I thought, well, I better put myself in my own video. So then I decided to record myself, and then I asked a couple other select musicians to participate. So that's why I've got Abe on one track, Noble Savage, and Sam Wilkes was on that track, the bass player, great bass player, who's on the record.
So good.
Charlie Bisharat on violin,
Mm-hmm.
and who else? Jeff Babco does a little spot. Wade on mallets. I'm probably forgetting somebody else. But yeah, so I had certain people, asked them if they wouldn't mind filming themselves for different sections of different songs, so I could put them in the video along with me. So yeah, all that stuff is after the fact, but it's all legitimate. I'm playing the same thing. I had to relearn my solo and things like that, and that took some time because I'm improvising. You don't stream of consciousness stuff, so when you have to learn your own stuff, it can almost seem like you're learning somebody else's playing or their music.
Right. And that's a unique thing because some people would just kind of fake it, but you actually went back and learned the solo. Yeah, that's awesome.
I got too many people will go, wait a minute.
right. That's awesome. I'm glad you bring up Sam Wilkes because wow, that kid.
Yeah.
Amazing
player.
Oh man.
I saw him play with
Lewis
Collier.
Oh, with who? Sorry.
Jacob Collier.
Oh, please, another maniac.
Play with him first. That's when I met him, and then of course I saw him later with Norah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just a ridiculously talented young bassist musician.
Well, that leads me to a question I always ask artists because, and you're someone who, when I see an interview here and there, you'll talk about different things you're listening to, which is cool. A lot of people have just stopped listening to music. Give me your thoughts on where we are with these amazing kids that are out here. Not only Sam Wilkes, Lewis Cole, and Genevieve, and bands like Bent Knee and
Knee Body,
Black Midi, and all this.
Yeah.
What's Snarky Puppy? What's your thoughts on all these folks keeping it alive?
Oh, I think it's incredible. I think it's amazing that there's a huge contingency of young musicians. I mean, these are people in their 20s and early 30s and that are just incredible musicians, and keeping the banner of harmony and musicianship and songwriting at the highest level altogether. And it's very satisfying to see that for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. Likewise. It's just really,
I went to, when I worked, I had Sam play on my Uncommon Measures on a track, and we went out we had dinner, and I was sitting down and I felt like I was 22 years old again, because he's so enthusiastic about music and has such great energy. And we're talking about bands, and he likes lots of stuff that I liked when I was 22. If it's good, it's good. Doesn't matter when it was made. So we're freaking out over George Duke and you name it. Jazz records from that period, and Weather Report, and so I was getting jazz, just excited about music, just being around that energy. And that's what's really great about these people, these young musicians. They have that energy.
Absolutely.
Not that you don't get it from the elder statesmen,
of course,
but it's exciting to see it perpetuate.
It really is, and I have a couple students, and both in music, and I'm a substitute teacher sometimes. And one of the things we forget is that people want to listen to people who look like them, their age. So there is that. I mean, lots of young people do listen to all the classics, but you can get them in the door if it's a 22-year-old. And I think it's great that these young artists are building a bridge, and these younger kids are finding out who Miles and Chick and Herbie Hancock is. Thundercat, that's another guy where straight line to Zappa and George Duke and fusion, and it's great stuff. Someone's asking, have you ever worked with the Kronos Quartet?
I have not, but I would love to.
All right, well there we go. Let's make some phone calls. Let's get Lyle connected. We're gonna jump back. one more track I wanted to play on here, just a little bit of, is Unsung Heroes. Let's hear that for a second, folks. And oh man, that's the one thing I wish this was like Dr. Demento or something where I could play the whole track. But but folks, you know what to do. Just you got to go buy this record. This is it's really so. That's one of the more up tempo, funky ones.
There's
Talk
two
to us
tracks
about
that are
that.
kind of in that vein that are more of a funk
Mm-hmm.
jazz kind of scenarios. The rest of the record doesn't sound anything like that song. Well, there's another song that's a bit like that, but the rest
Right. There's a couple that, yep, and there's a couple that are kind of, wow. I don't even have a phrase for it, which I like, where it's kind of an orchestra that's rocking out.
Yeah.
There's some tracks, and it's not orchestral rock per se, but it's the orchestra following these wild guitar lines. But
Yeah.
that one has a different rhythm section. Donald Barrett and Tim are on that one, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And speaking of celebrating David Bowie, our friend Ron Jubila is playing.
Ron Jubila, yeah, that's
sax
right.
On that.
Yeah, because he played the Bowie stuff, the celebrating David Bowie.
Fantastic.
That's how I met him. That was through that. Yeah.
Wow, that is great.
Yeah. So our friend Angelo Bundini, aka
Yes.
Throat, was a great
Throat.
resource. That's I have to thank him for the introduction to Tim and Ron, and there's probably some other ones too.
Yeah. That's how we met. That's how I give thanks.
Yeah. He's like the musical Pied Piper.
He really is, man.
Yeah.
And no, well, that's great to know. I just assumed you knew Ron, but you've brought this up a number of times today, which is another. I always hope people take something away from these interviews, and again, you just have a real Zen spirit, man. It's always been apparent from a distance, and then to find out that it's really true. But you've brought up a number of times today this idea that you just meet people on a gig, and a lot of musicians do that. That's not a novel thing. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a way that you do it where you're just like, okay, I hear something magical in this person. Let's and so that's cool that you just met Ron. And Ron is, of course, one of those people that's helping this next generation. He's a music teacher. He works at that school in L.A. So this whole idea of teaching 16, 18, 22-year-olds about jazz and fusion and funk. So that's awesome that he's on the record. Yeah, that's a really great, just a funky track. A couple questions about gear. Someone was asking, tell us a little bit. Well, here's one question. Someone says, I'm mad at André for stopping that sax solo. I know. We have time limits. Well, the links are there. Go pick the album up. Go to Lyle's official YouTube and learn about this record. And someone's asking, has there ever been a new piece of gear that you find inspiring?
I have an amp right now that I'm just loving. That's I'm actually recording right now with. It's a Tweed Twin, but it was made for Joe Bonamassa,
Mm.
and it's actually it's called the Joe. It looks exactly like a Tweed Twin, and this particular he did a deal with Fender, and these amps are only available through Joe Bonamassa through his
Oh,
website.
wow.
So I
Okay.
guess you would call it the Bonamassa Tweed Twin. I don't know. Looks just like a Tweed Twin. He had gotten together with a good friend of mine named Stan Cody. Do you know Stan?
I do not.
Yeah, he works for Fender. He's builds amps, designs amps and pedals, and he's a great musician. He played in that band Giraffe.
Oh, yeah.
with Kevin
Okay.
Gilbert. So again,
Sure.
a family tree. So he's a strong limb in
Right.
my family tree.
Yeah.
And so he brought this amp by. He goes, "Hey, you should check it out." Joe brought his favorite of his, I don't know how many Tweed Twins he owns,
Sure.
high power Tweed Twin. He wanted Fender to blueprint it, and they got it down to the point to where Joe couldn't tell the difference between the two.
Wow.
And man, I just plugged it in, and it's just a great amp. So yeah,
That's
a great
awesome.
amp like that, a great guitar. This guitar, when I got this guitar, it blew my mind, and because it's such a great example. It's a 59 335,
Right.
and you just play it and just makes you want to play and keep playing. It's just beautiful.
335s will do that.
Yeah, I love 335s. It's also good for me. I'm 6'2.5", so a bigger body guitar.
Right.
Good on me.
That's awesome. Well, of course, folks, this man is sitting in a studio that is just a museum of 60 or 70 years worth of gear, studio gear, and I've had the exquisite pleasure of visiting the studio for about an hour a few years ago when we were doing the Celebrating Bowie, and man, oh man, I mean, you can see here there's some nice old Marshalls and Fenders and all kinds of custom amps there.
Yeah.
And they all get used, right? I mean,
Yeah,
different flavors, right?
yeah, definitely.
For different
Yep.
tracks.
Exactly. I
and-
cast my amps as well.
Sorry?
I cast my amps as well.
You can't, yes. He does. And this is the studio, of course, where you've how long have you been in the studio? I mean, are all those great soundtracks like 40-Year Virgin, Superbad, Bad
Every single
Santa,
one.
oh, they're all from right there.
I've been in this room was built this summer or next. Oh, actually, we just had I believe it's our 23rd anniversary.
Wow.
So I've been working in this room for that long.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Get Him to the Greek, Knocked
Yes.
Up, all
Yeah.
those Favreau films. Folks,
Yeah.
we could do a 3-hour interview just on this man's soundtrack work. That's the only frustrating thing when I only have, 75 minutes or so. But of course, we always want to know what people are doing right now, and of course, the Uncommon Measures is the story. But folks, if any of those movie titles mean anything to you, go back and check out Lyle's soundtrack music on those. So okay, we're gonna wrap, and I always see if there's one or two more questions. Thank you so much for your time, man. This has been a
Oh,
blast.
it's been a pleasure.
It's
I
been a
thank you
blast.
for the opportunity to talk about my record. And
Absolutely. Let's see. People are okay. Great. We have your Facebook link up there. We got all these links, so that's pretty cool. Okay, great. We're gonna go out with just your thoughts on one more track here. Let me go back over there, and we talked about it a little earlier. Our friendship.
right.
So, and you had said John.
Yeah.
John composed that entirely, or was that a collaborative?
100%.
Okay, so let's hear a little bit of that and tell us a little bit more about it. just another beautiful one. And
Yeah.
you know, there's so many different types of flavors of guitar on this record, folks, and that's why I put up a picture here from.
Guitar used, by the way, on
Oh,
that song.
that's the
Yeah.
one. Okay, with the
Think about
whammy.
it. It's got this thing called it's called the Sustainiac.
Right.
It's it makes these strings ring forever. It's like an ebow kind of sound, but it just, the pickup generates this constant feedback loop.
Right.
So the note will just, go out having a bite.
It's sustained for days.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
That's great that was right. Well, you are right in your studio.
Yeah.
That's awesome because so I just had the shot up there, folks, of course, on his Instagram. So many wonderful guitars, and you can hear it on the album. There's different types of playing, and that one, we're all a product of what we grew up listening to. But do I hear a little bit of a Jeff Beck influence there, on that one?
Who's that?
He says, "I'll send you a link. You got to check this guy out. Obviously, you've never heard of him, but
I never think about anybody else, when I'm playing, but sure. I mean, of course. I mean, there's definitely a couple songs that he did there was one called The Final Piece that was on Jeff Beck record. Was on There and Back. I think it's one of I think
right.
It's the last track. It's not orchestra, but it's synthy
Like
pad
synth,
stuff.
right?
So but yeah, there's a bit of a tip of the hat subconsciously
Right.
to Jeff Beck, who is my favorite, living rock guitar
good.
player. I mean,
He's
a guy that no one could figure out. He's like
right.
a complete. It transcends guitar playing what he does.
That's right, and I've heard you mention him before, and that's the thing, right? You don't sound like him, but it's part of that big DNA.
Yeah, everything
audio.
is in there. Now, I don't know in terms of John what he would say about this piece in terms of if he had a specific artist in mind, or I don't think so. I remember that maybe that sensation or that feeling of a little bit of Beckism in there. The Beck DNA is probably in the way that I played the guitar and the bends and things like
right.
that, whammy bar and all that. But yeah, Jeff Beck is a huge influence. I mean, who plays better at 60 years old than they did when they were 30? That doesn't really happen.
It's amazing, exactly, and experiments with whatever electronic.
Yeah, he just got this thing together with the way that he plays and the bar at the same time and the volume control, and really it's just I went with a group of friends to see him play at the House of Blues here, and we had to go and break off into a discussion group afterwards. I mean, I was there with like 4 people. He would play something. He did something on the guitar, and I would look. People would just look at you like, "Did I really hear what had just happened?" I mean,
I know.
There's one thing to have technique and all that, but he has something else that you can't really learn. I mean, you can sort of ape it a little bit, but I've never tried to. But he just gets a sound out of the guitar and does things with it that nobody else does, and it's just so incredibly inspiring and gorgeous.
That's it. So well put. You go, those notes aren't on my guitar. What the fuck? No, well, it's I've never met Jeff Beck. Have you?
Briefly, I went backstage to say hi to Vinny when he was playing with him.
Right.
And
years ago.
And then he walked by, and I don't think we even got properly introduced, but I almost didn't want to meet him.
Sure. Yeah.
I was a foot away from him, but yeah.
Well, I've never met him, but the very quick story I'll tell. His tech is a dear friend of mine.
Okay.
A guy named John McIntosh Scully, who's also Geddy Lee's tech, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So we went to the show and we're hanging out, and I as a tech myself, I can't wait to see all the spare amps, and I know he only uses like a Rat, maybe a wah-wah. I knew it would be simple, but I thought, oh man, it's gonna be. So we go back there, and I expect this boat of guitars. They travel with 2 Strats in gig bags, and they have like 2 amps. That's it. I couldn't believe it. I thought, but again, to that Zen thing,
And just one or two pedals. What about that part of it?
yeah, like I think at that tour he had a rat that was only on a couple songs and a wah-wah that he left cocked open for one song. But what blew me away was at that level that he's not traveling with, 16 guitars in a vault or something. I thought about that for weeks, and I just thought, holy shit, it's like a club gig still. He's there with two guitars.
Of course, he could have anything he wanted there.
Well, yes. So
yeah.
you have that. So,
Okay.
but yeah, man. Well, let's do this again. This was great, and continued good luck on the record.
Thanks a lot, André. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and folks, stay tuned here. Also, folks, please subscribe, please like, and do all that YouTube stuff that I sometimes forget. And I'd be remiss if I didn't announce a couple things coming up. Next Friday, I've got a very special show that's the 20th anniversary celebration of Go Plastic by Square Pusher. So we're going to have a panel talking about that amazing record, which I think Jeff Beck probably heard, but groundbreaking electronic record. Then I've got the one and only Skerrick, sax player Skerrick, on July 2nd. Tony Rolando, the founder of Make Noise Music, not to be confused with Make Weird Music, the great synthesizer company. Dolette McDonald is here on July 16th. Dolette McDonald, the brilliant singer, composer, and collaborator with Sting also. So there we go. We got right away Lyle connection again. Dolette McDonald from Sting, Laurie Anderson, Talking Heads. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Please stay tuned. And once again, thank you, Lyle Workman.
Thank you, André. My pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Stick around as I end the stream here. Okay, cool. We're off the air.